I want us to talk about what's happening in
Meru
County. How long has it been since the governors were sworn in?
Actually, you're talking about a month.
A month and maybe 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's trouble.
Yes, there's trouble.
What's happening in Meru? She's about to be impeached?
Yeah, there's an impeachment motion that has already been drafted. I don't know whether it will actually get to be discussed in the County Assembly of Meru, but I suppose it may, unless there is intervention locally. I saw the Njuri Ncheke elders try to intervene and resolve the situation. First of all, I think it's too early for such fights between governors and county assembly members. But I think it is symptomatic of what is likely to happen to many of the county assemblies versus county governments. On one hand, remember, a good number of governors, when they were campaigning, they promised county assemblies or wards in their counties ward development fund. Because the discussion was for purposes of equity and ensuring these development in each and every ward in a county, there will be set aside a certain amount to facilitate that development. However, the question is it constitutional? Is there a provision for a fund called the ward fund? And you remember the other day, in this very show, I raised that question of management by funds. Every elected leader,
money at the problem.
Every leader wants a fund.
Fund to oversee.
County assembly members want a ward development fund. The members of the National Assembly want CDF. Women rep want NGAF. Senators want a fund for oversight. So everybody wants a fund. And this fund is basically meant to help you to execute your functions and look for re-election. Because you can imagine our parliamentarians, for example, without CDF, it would be very difficult for a good number of them. So much so because quite a number of them are very poor when it comes to legislation and representation. But they will do something with the funds that they'll get at the constituency level. Anyway, that's not the issue. The main issue here is the lack of communication, lack of a good relationship between the governor and the county assembly members. On one hand, the governor is saying the MCAs are blackmailing her and are demanding money. On the other hand, the MCAs are accusing the governor of disrespecting them and high-handedness and so much more. It is also important at this point to talk about how the County Assembly of Meru is constituted.
Yes.
County Assembly of Meru has 69 MCAs. 45 are elected. Out of that total number of MCAs in the County Assembly of Meru, UDA has 21. Devolution Empowerment Party, call it MBAS, the one for Kiraitu Murungi, has 20 MCAs. Jubilee has 10, DP has 3, PNU has 7, NOPEU, this is the party for, what's the name of this gentleman who is the MP for Tigania? Mpuru Waburi. And then there are 5 who are elected as independent candidates. Now, it is instructive to note that Kawera Mwangaza was elected as an independent candidate. And this was her second time to be elected as independent. For woman rep, in the 2017 general election, she was elected as an independent. She defeated Florence Kajuju, who was vying on a Jubilee ticket, you remember?
Yes.
So, in this election in August, she defeated 2 very key persons, Midhika Linturi, the now agriculture CS.
And a sitting governor.
On a UDA ticket, and a sitting governor, Kiraitu Murungi, on a DAP party. So first of all, she comes in at a disadvantage because she has no MCAs. She doesn't belong to a party that has MCAs. And more importantly, all these 69 MCAs have ganged up against her. Ordinarily, where we've seen governors at loggerheads with MCAs, you would see a certain group of MCAs support the governor. But in this case, like it happened the other day, all of them walked out on her, the 69 of them. So unless she mends bridges with these MCAs, she will be in a lot of trouble.
And
a lot of it.
Her troubles are bigger than her independent ticket because her dependence on her spouse also is an issue with the MCAs, because I think in September she appointed her husband, Murega Baishu, as Meru Youth Service Patron and a Hustlers Ambassador. And his public pronouncements have actually gotten him into trouble with MCAs. In fact, the petition today was filed by a resident someone called Thuranira Celesio Mutuma, and is accusing the governor of gross misconduct and abuse of office. And the petition goes into specifics, talk about appointments they're saying that were not done without following due process. They talk about her husband saying he went to a USAID stakeholders function. Why? He's not a state officer. They talk about how she declared on her Facebook page she's not ready to work with other leaders since she's an independent governor. So they're actually specifics.
And she removed them from
WhatsApp group wali left issue. And it goes specific. On 30th of September, she did this. On this day, she did this. On 24th of October, she did this. Yeah, and it's very, very specific about what she has done and why it is not right. It's interesting how she's going to defend herself, because we've seen in the past, actually, MCAs wanaweza kukuondoa. We've seen in previous several governors who found themselves in trouble. Of course, there are those who did not go all the way kufutwa kazi, but there are those who did. And as Gachuri said, in those instances, we've seen a few MCAs here and there wanakutetea, but this one, all of them walked out on her as she was giving a speech in the House. Paka speaker akasema, you can't continue.
It was the opening of the county assembly, wasn't it?
And she was giving her speech.
Her inaugural speech.
All of them walked out. In fact, the speaker akamwambia, madam, you have to stop talking now. You have no quorum. It's that bad. And yeye mwenyewe pia hanyenyekei. When she speaks, she says, they're not going to hold me to ransom. I will fast. I will pray. But really, it's a mess. It's a mess. It's a mess. Less than 2 months after
And the people of Meru are the worst for it. Linus, your final word on this issue. We've seen this happen before, maybe differently. Kivuta Kibwana, when he was governor, the man of 9 lives, Governor Mambora, who went all the way to the Supreme Court and then some. But this is arguably much earlier than any of the others we've seen.
I don't have very kind things to say about what we are seeing in Meru. I think Meru is...
Then you can sing.
Yeah. Meru is doing itself a serious disservice, because this thing looks ugly. Even in the tone of the governor, the tone of the MCAs, it looks like a combination of a street brawl and a plot fiasco. It's, sorry to say, Meru, but it's looking primitive.
Yeah.
It's not looking like a decent disagreement of principle among leaders. It looks like, a drinking brawl gone wrong. And really, these guys, the Meru leaders, need to put their act together. Kawera Mwangaza needs to understand that she replaced 2 people. She succeeded 2 people who somehow conducted themselves in a profile that works with the rest of the country. Don't think just Meru, think
national.
Yeah. Don't think Baite TV alone. There is Citizen TV, which airs what you are saying across the country and indeed the world. So what are you projecting? And I was looking at just how they sound, and I'm saying, this is shameful. This is primitive, for lack of a better word. And the MCAs don't sound better. And then there is a guitar in the whole mix. Somebody is singing. Meru is a mess. They need to stop it.
Put it this way, Yvonne. We've spoken here and many times about the place of devolution. And actually, there is no doubt whatsoever now as to what devolution has done and what devolution can do to take development to the people. What we are seeing in Meru is not a very good example of what devolution should look like. Yeah. And more so, if the people have elected you as their governor, please do your job and separate your job as governor and your job as a person in a family. I think it is important at that point to bring it that way. So I think I would sum it this way. The biggest problem in Meru County is the guitar.
Where? It's a wrap. It's a wrap.